fight. They were very talkative. They have some concerns about people that they feel are still there, and they're going to be deeper.
Used by the Army and tanks used by the Republican Guards squaring off. It's believed that soldiers returning from the war are leading the revolt against Saddam Hussein. Keep in mind, though, that Saddam is an expert in surviving coups and assassination attempts.
The Iraqi unrest raises an interesting question for people who want to see Hussein brought to trial. Will Saddam still be alive to face his day in court? As News 8's Terry Bowers reports, international law experts say a war crimes trial may not come before Hussein is killed by his own people.
The end of Desert Storm fighting hasn't ended support group meetings. People like Mary Allen still fear for their loved one's safety, and they're angry. Angry with Saddam Hussein and anxious to see him brought to justice. Mary's son Philip writes about the subhuman conditions U.S. troops have had to endure.
We have concluded that we think Saddam should certainly move out of his luxurious bunker. Maybe he should have to live this way for a while, maybe a few hundred years. And then maybe he would think twice about what he has done. But I do think he needs to pay an incredible price.
International law experts say Mary Allen and her son should get their wish in the form of a war crimes trial. That is, if Saddam Hussein survives the wrath of his own people. Tulsa law professor David Clark says there's really nowhere for Hussein to hide, and it's unlikely he'll survive long enough to try to leave Iraq.
If he does, and he tries to escape to another country, it's very likely that the United Nations would take this matter up and be able to bring pressure on that third country to release him so that custody could be attained and the trial could be held.
And Clark says no matter how strong the desire for a war crimes trial is, it will take time to bring one about, at the very least 6 months. That is, if Hussein can stay alive that long. Terry Bowers, News 8.
Professor Clark says one reason there'll be a delay in conducting a war crimes trial is that coalition governments have other concerns to take care of first. One example, of course, making sure all prisoners of war are freed. One of those POWs that we have found out is freed is hopefully Craig Berryman from Cleveland, Oklahoma.
For more on that, we go to Cleveland, Oklahoma, and Berryman's home, and our Cindy Bear. Cindy?
Well, Stephen, Leanne, this is news that the Berryman family thought they would never hear. After a month of thinking that their son, 28-year-old Marine Captain Craig Berryman, was either missing or even killed in action, today they got news that he is alive and well. Craig Berryman was listed missing in action back January 28th after his Harrier jet went down over Kuwait. Today, he was identified by American Red Cross officials after 35 POWs were released by the Iraqi government. The family, Craig's mom and dad, got a phone call earlier this afternoon from Craig's wife that he was alive and well and soon to be back home. Craig's mom, Esther, says the news was hard to take at first.
Elated, surprised, a little disbelieving, but elated when I finally realized that it was true.
Well, joining me now live is Bob Berryman, Craig's uncle, and as we understand it, you were the first to tell Craig's father of the news.
Yes, that's correct.
What was his reaction?
Well, he was excited. I went up behind him, parked my car, and walked around so he wouldn't see me as I was approaching the car because I was afraid he might think I was bringing bad news. And
Did he believe you?
Well, I slipped the door open, put my arms around him, and said, "Loy, I've got some good news. Craig's a POW." He said, "Are you kidding me?" I said, "No, I wouldn't kid you about anything like that."
Well, certainly, first
captured Basra and 5 other towns. Iraqi opposition groups say that the growing political unrest is moving closer to Baghdad. A Shiite spokesman says anti-government demonstrators stormed a prison near the capital and released a large number of political prisoners. Iraq appears ready to meet another allied condition for a permanent truce.